Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Robert Welch reporting back in. No, I'm not dead. My computer was for a while. We've been dealing with some issues on my end of the line, and really going to try and play catch up this week. We're going to get series of short lectures posted up to get us up through where we're supposed to be lecture wise by Thursday or Friday. Like I said, short lectures. I've been doing some studying in my away time, and one thing I'd like to discuss with you is I've had some people tell me that, you can't lecture for an hour. You can't put the full PowerPoint thing up online for online students that the maximum student attention span, even in an in-person class, is about 20 minutes. So I want to experiment this week. I want you to tell me by the end of the week what you think of the series of short burst lectures that I'm going to do. Would you prefer a larger PowerPoint lecture that you could break down on your own and deal with, or do you enjoy the short 15 to 20 minute format that we're going to try this week? So I'll open up something on the web page for you to comment. Please comment by Sunday night at midnight. That way you've had some time to take a look at these. Let me know what you think. All right, so that being said, picking up where we left off, today is where we look at Rome. And what I really want to talk about today is, why is Rome important? Why do we bother taking a look at Rome? They're all dead. I mean, it's the past. It's the ancient past. What does this matter? And the reason that we look upon this not just for a Western civilization approach, but let's put it through an American history context. We hold ourselves to models politically and philosophically created by the Romans, even more so than the Greeks. We talk about Greek democracy, but Greek democracy was short-lived, and honestly, it failed. It did not work well, having to try and rely on every male citizen voting on every possible measure that needed to be decided by the Athenian city-state. What seems to work better is the republic model. We elect representatives from a free society to go forward and represent us in the Senate in order to make decisions for us, hopefully backed or based upon the opinion of those that they represent. There are obviously problems with that model, that we don't get situations all the time where those that we elect, or those that the ancient Romans elected, represented the beliefs of their people very well. And you can also run into situations where the idea, how do I put this? We can also run into situations, quite honestly, where the Senate, the representative body, chooses to replicate itself and take care of its own needs rather than working for the best interests of the people that it is supposed to represent. We've had periods of time in our history where that has happened. There are definitely periods of time in Roman history where that happened. So politically, that idea of the republic is very, very important for the creation of the American state. We also have the foundation of some of the world's best known philosophies, especially political philosophies. People like Seneca, Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger. We have great philosophers coming out of the Roman tradition that in many ways are going to be foundation stones for not just the later Enlightenment period of world history, but the foundation of a good liberal education that the founding fathers of the United States will have had access to during their schooling. A classical education, as it was known during the 18th century, and even honestly most of the 19th century, most of the early 19th century, was something where people of means not necessarily the common man, but people of means could sit down and read Greek and especially Roman philosophy and use that to shape their thoughts. It shapes how they speak. Most of the um, items that we have saved from Roman antiquity are essentially the speeches and letters of these great philosophers or political figures, and this actually informs how early pardon me, early politicians in America will actually speak on the Senate floor. You learn how to give a great speech by reading the rhetorical exercises of 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 the Romans, of reading what they said on their Senate floor. It informs our politicians how to act. And Roman history also gives us great figures that inform how we identify ourselves. Probably the best example coming out of early American history is the model of Cincinnatus. And your book speaks about Cincinnatus quite a bit in chapter 5. Cincinnatus was a general, he was a Roman leader who had retired to private life, he had done his duty to the Republic, and when Rome is threatened with invasion, as it was many times, Rome is a very warlike state, and we'll talk about that shortly. But Rome is threatened at one point in time. The people come to Rome, or the people of Rome, the leaders of Rome come to Cincinnatus. He has military experience, he has popularity, he has known skill. And the people come to Cincinnatus and say, please, we will offer you the dictatorship of Rome. We will give you the leadership of Rome if you would please put aside the plow and defend Rome, defeat the invading horde, and save Rome, save the city, save the people. And so Cincinnatus does actually put aside his plow. He takes up his sword and leads the legions to victory over the invaders, over those who would choose to vanquish or destroy Rome. He leads Rome just long enough to accomplish the task that he was asked for and to restore order. And instead of naming himself an emperor, naming himself a dictator for life, Cincinnatus accomplishes his job. He then goes to the Senate and says, I have done what you have asked me to do. Here is my power as dictator. I retire. All I wish to do is to go back to my farm and tend my fields. And that's what he does. He gives up power. He gives up power over the state of Rome in favor of private life. And he goes back and farms. He's the model citizen soldier, the model not just for our early American members of the military, and to be quite honest, the citizen soldier model still works in American society because we rely on the individual to volunteer for service. We no longer draft as we did around the Second World War and through the end of the Vietnam War. So Cincinnatus provides us a great model for the American soldier who steps out of private life, takes on the burdens of responsibility, and then does his duty and retires to private life. He gives us a model for America's first citizen. He is, in many ways, the model for George Washington. And Washington will follow this same exact form. First, he will accept the role of the leadership of the American Revolutionary Army from the Continental Congress. Now, he does lobby to become the leader of the army by wearing his uniform every day to every session of or meeting of the Second Continental Congress until they ask him to take the leadership role. So there is, a little toying with public perception there. But at the end of the revolution, when the American Revolution has been successful, when peace has been pursued with the British, Washington lays it all aside. Washington takes what could be the power to be the first dictator of the new world. He has everything in place. He has a loyal army, just like the legions of Rome were loyal to Cincinnatus. He has men in the field. He has popularity with the people. Washington could very well have just said, fine, I'm going to be the leader of the American Republic. I declare myself king. I declare myself emperor, dictator, whatever title he wished to use. But instead, Washington lays it aside. I wish to return to private life. And so he gives his sword to the Continental Congress and walks out of the room a private citizen, just like Cincinnatus did. And again, he is called upon at the time of the constitutional crisis, where we have a question over should we have a strong central government or weak central government, and he moderates. He comes out of retirement to moderate the Constitutional Convention, to sit there as its president, and then once we have established a new form of government, he is called upon to lead it. He is called upon to be our first American president. To be honest, he's the first election is a landslide. He's almost unanimously elected president, and he'll serve his 2 terms as president of the United States, leading us in a time of great peril, and then he will put his sword aside. He will step away after 8 years from the powers of the presidency to return to a position of being a private citizen. Twice in his life, George Washington exemplifies the proper Roman citizenship of Cincinnatus, to do your duty when called upon, and then to retire to private life at the end of your task. So much so that the early officer corps of the United States Army, especially the officers who led men in the American Revolution, will establish the Society of the Cincinnati, or the Society of the Cincinnatus, to exemplify Washington and the private soldier, the private citizen as soldier. The Society of the Cincinnati, where is that familiar? Oh, Cincinnati, Ohio, is named for this great concept of the great Roman citizen. That's just one example of how influential Roman thought, Roman iconography is to the growing American Republic. If we want to step back and talk about Rome as a whole, consider the fact that Rome isn't really a great one for creating mass culture. Rome is also a great borrowing culture. If you remember, we talked before the rise of Greek society. We talked about the fact that originally many scientists, many archaeologists hadn't put great store in the fact that Greek society was anything important. They had already found all of these Roman statues, all this Roman art. Obviously, Rome had created it and Greece had copied it. Well, that wasn't actually the case. Greece actually copied art. Rome actually copied Greek art. They co-opted for themselves those aspects of cultures that they came into contact with, that they desired, and claimed it as their own. Styles of artwork, painting, tile work, statuary, dress, plays, speeches, Even one of Rome's great founding myths is actually borrowed from the Greeks. The Aeneid, it's mentioned several times in chapter 5. The Aeneid is one of Rome's great founding myths. One of the emperors had decided, we need great Roman literature. How shall we get it? Virgil, I need you to write this for us. We need you to create great Roman mythology. Where do we come from? What is our foundation? Write it down and spread it to the masses. And so what does Virgil do? He essentially copies the Iliad and the Odyssey. He takes Homer's two great oral poems talking about the Trojan War and the return of Ulysses from that war. Odysseus. Little scatterbrain this morning. Sorry about that, folks. And he frames them. He changes the right words. He uses that as a framework for writing the Aeneid. The Aeneid is the story of Aeneas and his separation from Troy, his banishment from Troy at the end of the Trojan War. He is a Trojan warrior who takes and leads the last remnant peoples of Troy on a journey to find a new homeland, which is conveniently Rome. So even its creation myth is borrowed from Greece. Now that's not going to deny also, though, that Rome did make some amazing advancements for culture. It made great water. It develops the arch. Think about the barrel vault. Think about any archway on a bridge that you may cross under. Look at the rounded top archway to a doorway. That's engineering created by the Romans. That simple arch design, that ability to stack stones in a stable arch formation that doesn't fall down, allows them to build bridges. It allows them to complete roads. It allows them to build aqueducts. Rome is in an area where, as it grows, it outpaces its ability for local water supplies to take care of the needs of the masses. And so Rome will develop engineering that allows it to bring water from the mountains, water from far off streams via these aqueducts, many which stand today. Rome is marked for all of these things. And Rome provides us with the case study for the formation of a republican government. It provides us with the warnings of what can happen to a republican government if we're not careful. Rome will devolve into dictatorship. It will devolve into emperors, leading empires who have senates that, while they technically pass laws, the emperor can disband the Senate whenever he wishes to. He can ignore the Senate whenever he wishes to. So keep that in mind when we talk about Rome. That's just the introduction to Rome. Tomorrow we're going to dig a little deeper. We'll go into some more material as far as the expansion of Rome, the expanse of the empire. Why was the Roman Empire able to be built so large? And by the end of the week, we'll start dealing with the fall of the Roman Empire. I want to talk about the branch off with the Byzantine Empire. Rome will grow so large as an empire that we'll have an Eastern Roman Empire and a Western Roman Empire. One will outlive the other. They'll both be important for world history. We're going to concentrate on the Western Roman Empire. But we'll deal with all of that as the week goes on. I want to thank you for your attention. I am working on grading the exams. Those will be worked on as the rest of the semester, as the rest of the week goes forward. Again, in the email, I said I was going to try and get them done by Wednesday. I still plan on trying to do that, but I'll keep you informed. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow here on History 121, History of Western Civilization 1.